Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to look at the Crossgen Entertainment February 2003 solicitation and retailer incentive for Sojourn number 18 and Lady Death number 1. Let's jump into it, shall we? Let's go. Okay. I don't think a lot of people really understand like how comics are sold, how they're pitched to retailers like comic book shops and stuff like that in general. So today I'm going to show you a retailer incentive info dump kind of thing, right? They would send these out. They would come in, you'd get your boxes of new X-Men and Avengers and all this stuff. And in the box, there would be a bunch of these. They'd likely be in an envelope directly from the company, or they'd be in bags with other advertisements from many of the publishers, right? So here we go. This is Lady Death number 1 for Crossgen. Retailers don't miss out on Crossgen's special incentive for the new Lady Death number 1. And so when you wonder why certain books have really high numbers for their number 1 or their number 25 or whatever it is, right? It's because they do these incentives, and here's the incentive. Meet or beat your Sojourn number 18 orders for Lady Death and earn a 25% free overship. Now here, this is what happened with Absolute Batman. Basically, if you bought other Batman books, they gave incentives to the retailers and sold them at a steep discount. I believe it's like $1 an issue for Absolute Batman number 1. And they may have done similar things with more printings, right? So they have here, Lady Death is a familiar comic to readers, but on February 12th, her story is reimagined in an all-ages epic set in the Dark Ages. Lady Death number 1 is a 32-page, with no ads, all story for $2.95. Crossgen doesn't often ask retailers to take a risk on something that they haven't seen. That's why we are showing you this black and white preview of Lady Death number 1. One look at the exceptional artwork of Ivan Reis will convince you that this is a brand new Lady Death. Reis can draw a knight on horseback like nobody's business. And it's pretty interesting because they would push these. They would do it with all kinds of different books, right? And so, they're going to talk about his storytelling skills. They're going to promote him, like the artist on the book, and be like, hey, this guy. You can trust that you could purchase a book that's drawn by this guy and fans will respond, right? And then it's like here, but that's not all we're doing to promote Lady Death number 1. Double page spread and previews. So basically they're telling, the comic shops that, hey, we are behind this book. We are really heavily promoting this book. It will be promoted so you can kind of rest easy. People will know about it. They'll want to come into the store looking for it, right? So double page spread and previews, 4 weeks of full page color ads in the comics buyer's guide. So right, like they're out there, they have a marketing blitz. They're informing the retailer that people will know about, that they're standing behind the book and they're putting money behind the book. Full page ad and wizard, right? When this stuff meant something, right? 25,000 postcards mailed out to longtime fans across the country telling them that Lady Death is back, right? So even back then, things like these reader lists or mailing lists were super important, right? If you're sending, like today, if you could get 25,000 people on a mailing list, you'd be laughing, right? If you had a book out today and you're like, I've got a mailing list of 25,000 people, and even if 5,000 of those people showed up to buy your book, you're laughing, right? Like, because not everybody's going to buy everything all the time, right? And you know that, right? Because some people are going to jump on later. Some people are going to trade wait. Some people are going to wait for, an omnibus, whatever, right? And then so here it is. Crossgen's free overship program has been a big hit with retailers, right? Because if you're going to buy 10 books, why would you not get 15, right? So that you get more. Right? And they're just free sales because the margin on these books is really small, right? When retailers are selling comics, they're not, there's $2.95 or $3.95 or, $4.99 or whatever, right? They're not making $2.50 on a $5 book. They're making, and it all depends on what the shipping cost is, all that kind of stuff, right? And so the margins on these books sometimes are 80 cents a dollar, right? On a $5 book. And then you still have to pay the guy who's behind the counter. You still have to pay a power bill. You still have to pay, you know, your internet bill, phone bill, all that kind of stuff. Like these margins are narrow, right? I remember back when I was managing the shop, one of the biggest things that had the best markup was action figures, right? You'd pay $15 for an action figure and you'd sell it for 25 or 30, right? You were almost making double on it. And that was the suggested retail. You'd go to Walmart, you'd go wherever, and they were selling them for that price. So you're like, hey, if Walmart is selling it for that price, we are fully, you know, comfortable matching their price, right? And you're still making a good profit. Comics, you know, profit was never really huge. And it's this because if you only participate in what you want to, and there's never any copies to ship back, not only does it put extra money in your pocket, it helps build a strong reader base for an ongoing series that will ship reliably month after month. And so what they're doing here is they're trying to encourage the retailer to kind of go all in, right? Like that, hey, this is going to be a monthly book. We are advertising it. We are promoting the hell out of it. And it will bring people into your store on a regular basis, right? It's not going to be one book every 3 months. It's not going to be 5 months. It's not going to be a year or whatever, right? They are pitching reliability and sales, right? Like that is 100% what they want. And it says, detach this cover and show a black and white preview to your customers. We're sure there won't be disappointed, right? Because, you know, meet or beat your orders on Sojourn 18, 25% free overship, right? This isn't information for the customer, right? Like, they're like, rip that off, put that on the counter, tell people about Lady Death. They'll flip through it and think it's cool. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to have a look at this retailer incentive. And what's really cool about it is it's just pure black. It's almost like an artist edition. It's just pure black and white. Like here's like the, here's what you're going to see this is what you would see in Diamond. This would be the Diamond catalog solicitation. Lady Death #1 by Brian Pulido, art by Ivan Reis, and Mark Campos, colors by Chris Blythe. It's got the spotlight. The feudal world is threatened by a near immortal race called the Eldritch. Humanity's hope for survival is Lady Death, an outcast who is half human, half eldritch, and all attitude. You know, because you got to have these badass babes, right? Like that's the genre. Blood of both clans. She belongs to neither. Bearing a sword of vengeance, Lady Death roams medieval Europe in search of her place in the world. Lady Death is familiar to comics readers, but now her story is reimagined in an all-ages epic set in the Dark Ages, amidst a harrowing battle between warrior knights and the otherworldly Eldritch. A child is conceived that is neither wholly human nor entirely eldritch. Years later, her unique nature is discovered, setting in motion events that will jeopardize the lives of Hope and her mother. Is there any place in the world for Hope? Or is Lady Death the only solution? And that's also an interesting thing, right? 32 pages, full color ads, all story, no ads. And that was Crossgen. They were pretty big on that, right? That they were a comic book company. They were telling you stories, no ads. The other interesting thing that's in here is this is an all ages book, right? They toned down the gratuitous cheesecake, right? Like, you know, she wasn't scantily clad all the time. She had like full attire on, right? She was running around and, you know, she wasn't in a bikini, a bone bikini or whatever, right? So yeah, it was an interesting kind of like push into just general audience availability, right? Like it wasn't hidden in a corner of a comic book shop somewhere. It wasn't like in a plastic bag, etc., right? Like it was just on the shelf with the cross-gen stuff and it was fully available for everyone to get. All right, so now we're just going to look at straight up raw black and white. And it's a pretty cool look at the book before there's colors on it, before the word balloons or everything there, right? We have this big battle. And the art was really good in this. Like, that, let's not even pretend. And so, yeah, like, retailers got these all the time. And, you know, you basically go through the whole story, see everything, see the sick, you know, crusader on this horse getting ready to wreck everything. You know? And, like, yeah, you know, you just got full access to the book. And this sold books. Like, people would see this stuff on the counter and be like, hey, can I add that to my account? Can I get that on my pull list? You know? And Yeah, like cross, like I don't know, you like say what you want about Crossgen, but they did have some like really exciting books and some really like great creators on those books, right? Like a lot, like you wish books look like this today, right? Like there isn't a lot of stuff that like looks this good, right? And it's like, and here's the thing: I'm not like the bar is so low now. While this is good, right? There was amazing people working at CrossGen. There was amazing people working at Marvel and DC at the time, Image, all that kind of stuff, right? But you know, this stuff stands high now compared like when you go back and look at this stuff and you're like, man, this stuff is great. You know, like it's clean, it's crisp, but yet it's like, you know, there's a lot of really heavy blacks here, like really good ink work. And CrossGen had great colors too, right? Like so you were kind of getting the best of both worlds, right? And you were kind of like it was kind of neat. Like you weren't thinking about it at the time, but you were almost getting an artist edition with a lot of these previews. And I have more of them. I'll probably do other videos on them at some point. But yeah, they're just really interesting to look at, like nice, interesting little pieces of history and how the retail system worked, right? Because most people just kind of assume that, you know, people order the books show up, and that's it. And the customer buys them. And to an extent, that's true, but there was always a hook. You know, it's like buy 25 books, get a special variant cover. You know, buy these books, get 25% of your other order for this other book we're trying to push for free, right? Anything to get those books into the store, because once they're in the store, comic shops weren't sending them back. They didn't really have a return policy. It wasn't like magazines where you could just rip the cover off and send them back and get your money back, right? So once the comic shop ordered those books, they were on the shelf. And if they sold, they sold. If they didn't, they either stacked up or they got put in bargain bins or they got given away on free comic book day, like things like that. Like that's kind of what happened, right? Or you'd bundle them up and be like, oh, here's the first like 5 issues of Lady Death, you know, for $5 or something. And, you know, and some people would come in and go, oh my God. And then they'd go and buy the rest of the issues at full retail or buy the trade or whatever, right? Like there was all kinds of ways to get people in the door, right? Like, you know, to a series. And also word of mouth. Like if like when I was managing these shops, people would ask you what you were reading, right? Or if you recommended a book to them that you thought was really good and they took a chance on it, they bought that first issue or whatever, and they enjoyed it. They come back. They keep coming back based on your recommendations and continuing to purchase things. And like that was kind of like that's kind of the good thing about whether it's a, you know, retro video game shop or a comic book shop or anything like that, where if the customers trust you, and this is in almost every business, right? Like if you have a relationship based on trust and giving people what you actually like, what you actually care about, and not just trying to sell them thing to sell them thing, they will 100% appreciate that. And they tend to appreciate that monetarily, right? Like, and I know it sounds like cynical, but like, it's one of those things, right? Like when people relate to you, when people feel that they are in the same category as far as interests and all that kind of stuff. And you're like, oh, check this out. Like, I think it's awesome. And then they read it and go, oh, it was awesome. He was right. Like, and you still kind of build that connection. And I think that's important in art. I think that's important in, you know, comic sales, video game sales, like in general, like being authentic and sharing your interests and your joy brings that to other people, right? And then they also come around, right? Because it's one of those things, if you like something, chances are there's a group of people who also like it, like-minded individuals, right? And so, yeah, like I do think it's kind of important to share those things. Like I know, like you see a lot of people, like, you know, and they hate everything. Every movie's terrible. Every book is terrible. All that kind of stuff. And I get it to an extent, right? But there's a fatigue that comes with hating everything. Eventually, you just kind of like, all right, I'm out. Nobody likes anything. I'm good, right? And so, yeah, you move on. It's kind of like the interest and hobby killer. But yeah, like this art was solid. This art was like really solid all the way through. You know, more, I would say more than competent, right? Like, I've seen some books lately, and even when the story is good, right? And that's the sad part too, right? Like, even when the story is good, sometimes the art is just competent. It's good enough to tell the story, but it isn't exciting. It isn't interesting. It isn't like you're going to read the story and you're going to like be like, oh, that story was good, but you're not going to think about how cool the art was, how good the shots were, how the rain was, like, you know what I mean? Like how wet everything, like, it looked, like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're not pulled into it visually, but the visuals are just passable, just competent enough to take you through the story, it's kind of a letdown, right? Like, you're not going to remember that. You're not going to come back to it just to kind of wade into the visuals and enjoy it and just kind of look back on it, right? And that's the thing, right? Like, this is a visual medium. Like, everybody's like, oh, like scripts and stories. Like, yeah, that shit's important, right? But I've read a bunch of books recently, and I read 3 issues of a series recently. And as I was reading, I was like, oh, it's good. Like, the story's good, and I'm pulled through it. And the first issue ended, and I was like, oh, it's cool. Read the second issue. Oh yeah. But it was like, it just didn't have that oomph, right? And the colors were kind of flat and the whole thing, right? And so I was just like, this could have been so much cooler. It could have been so much more visually interesting. But yet the whole way through, the visuals were just like a straight line, right? And it wasn't like a bad line. It didn't drop down, off a cliff, and it didn't reach heights that you would want something, to big climax or really cool visuals or whatever. It just kind of straight along, just flatlined along, and it was fine, right? Like, it was competent, it was passable, it told the story well enough that I enjoyed the story, but I wasn't wowed by it visually, right? But yeah, like look at some good stuff here, some good lighting, the whole bit. But yeah, and I honestly, like, I would recommend people going back and checking out a lot of the Crossgen stuff. Like, I have a bunch of it. I have a bunch of their art books and stuff like that as well. I'll probably do videos on those as well at some point. But I was going through stuff today and I seen this and I was like, man, this, like, I just don't think people understand the retailer side of it, right? And how this stuff was presented to retailers, and it was kind of their job to decide, do we promote this book? Do we go in on this book in orders sufficient enough to make selling those extra copies worth our while, right? Like, is that going to happen even? And so you had to make those choices. You actively had to go in and think about, are we going to sell 25, 30, 100 copies of this book? Yeah, and so you had to like kind of strategize and calculate, like, and especially where at the time I was managing 2 comic book stores, you had to go like, do we even out? Like, do we think we have enough people in both stores that if we ordered 50 of these books and got a 25% overrun, are we going to sell them, and is it going to make the money, right? And so that's the kind of thing, like, you make those decisions, and then it's like, what if the book sucks, right? Like, we get this preview here and it looks good, but, like, what if the next issue doesn't have the same artist on it? What if 5 issues in, the art turns to crap and everybody just falls off? Because that happens. That is a thing that happens in comics, right? Where people are like, oh, I was loving it when Joe Mad was drawing it, and then it changed to somebody else, and I stopped reading it, right? Because it doesn't feel like the characters, the expressions are lost, the subtle nuance of the body movement, the acting that someone like a Joe Mad or an Alan Davis or whoever would give those characters is then lost, right? And so readers fall off. Some readers follow creative teams. If Jeff Johns is on a book, people are going to check it out. If he's not on a book and he leaves the book after issue 25, a lot of times those readers just leave, right? It's just the way it is. It's kind of, it's like the same with like The Witcher. Whenever they put that Liam Hemsworth guy in, no one cared anymore. We lost The Witcher. They put in a stand-in, no one cared. But yeah, like, some of these shots are pretty good. Just as I'm flipping through it, it's pretty cool. And then we have some of like kind of the rough pencils here before any of the inks. And you can see like all the little crosses like, hey, this is going to be all inked in. And it's cool. It's a little neat piece of history and something that probably the vast majority of comic book readers and collectors haven't even seen, right? And don't have access to. And I like that it has like the approved date 12/3/02. But yeah, I just thought I would share that with you and share some of the retailer part of the comic book selling experience, right? Like where you are getting these like 25% free overship. And so you really, like as a collector or even as just a casual like comic buyer who goes into the store and you see them really backing a book and you just don't know why, right? Like, and this is why, like these kind of like overship things, and they happen a lot too. Like it's not uncommon because it boosts their numbers, right? Like even if they sell you 50 books at the cost of 25, they can still say that they sold 3,000 stores 50 books, right? And the reality is most stores, like if you're a larger comic book store, chances are you're not carrying 50 copies of an Image book or a DC book, right? You might get some for your polls and you might get some for the shelf, but you're not getting 50 just for the shelves expecting people to just walk in and buy it. It just doesn't happen. Ask any retailer, it doesn't happen. But yeah, you know, I thought this would be kind of interesting. Pull it out of my box history of comic retail. And yeah, you know, I hope you enjoyed this look at it. All right, I'm going to go to the outro. Boom. Okay, that's going to do it for me. If you liked everything you've seen here today, including this Lady Death retailer incentive, share it out on social media. Tell your mom about retailer incentives. Like, comment, subscribe, ring that bell for notifications. And we'll see you next time, everybody. Have a good one. Bye-bye.